Alrighty, my friends, we are live here on the Muddy Peach Podcast Live. I have Robert Farrington, a good friend of mine. He's from the College Investor, but Robert is now the millennial expert in the United States. It's actually, he owns that. So he's the millennial expert, and he's also a student loan expert. If there's any questions I ever have when it comes to student loans, and we're putting anything on any of our channels, he's usually the go-to person I will refer to. And if you ever on our site, you know all the links that's student loan related point to Robert's site because he is the man when it comes to student loans. So Robert, thanks so much for coming on and helping our listeners, our viewers kind of navigate this time when it comes to student loans, student loan forgiveness, and the changes. And from what I'm reading, the changes seem like they're pretty good, but I'm going to defer to you. What would you, I think the biggest question I get is, oh my gosh, I have a student loan. What am I going to do right now?
Right.
Corona.
I mean, crazy times right now. And it's been a fire hose of information too, which I think also makes it harder, right? We had one like temporary program that went into effect on March 13th. And then the CARES Act passed last week, which had a whole nother set of programs and like codified some of the stuff. So there's really three big things that have happened with student loans. And if you have student loan debt, you need to know this. But I will tell you, they only apply to federal loans owned by the government, which are pretty much every single loan that was made by the government after 2008. If you have a direct loan, these three things apply. Number one is that you do not have to make any payments on your loans until September 30th or after it is suspended automatically. You don't have to call your lender. You don't have to do anything. All payments on your student loans, your federal ones, have stopped until September 30th of 2020.
Okay,
number
so that's
two,
one, September 30th.
That's number one.
Okay.
And then number two is, guess what? There's no interest on your loans either. So they're frozen in time, which is a wonderful thing, right? So there's no interest growing. Your loans have literally stopped. So that can help you. You're not only are you not having to make payments, but you're not getting penalized for not making payments. Like it's literally like hitting the pause button on your student loans.
Okay, that's nice. I like these two things so far.
And then number three is all collection activity has ceased until at least September 30th as well. So that means tax refund offsets, stimulus check offsets, garnishments on your wages, any type of collection activity has been suspended for at least the next 6 months until September 30th. So if you were in default or behind on your loans, like all that stuff is stopping and it'll give you time to catch your breath, which is awesome as well.
Okay, so I'm going to back up a little thing. So the big three things here is number one, we have, if you are making student loan payments, you can now officially stop making payments from now until September 30th.
And it's automatic. And so here's the thing
automatic.
it's a brand new law. So you got to give your loan servicer some time. So we're going live right now and someone's going to see this and they're gonna be like, but I haven't seen this happen online yet. Like I logged into my loan servicer's website and it's not effective yet. I'm like, yeah, it just went into effect last week. You have to give these loan servicers a little bit of time. Congress gave them 2 weeks to get this thing going. And yesterday they announced that they will 100% shut off all payments on April 10th. So like they got to give them some time. Everyone's working remotely these days. Like I know we like to bash on the loan servicers, but like this is a major change in law and you have to give them a little bit of time to like get this thing in action. So everything stops 100% April 10th. No bills, no automatic debits, nothing. So, but with that being said, if you had an automatic debit go through, you can call your lender right now and get a refund. So anything that happened after March 13th, you can get that payment refunded. So because it's taking them a little time to get this put into place, they're giving you a little grace and they're saying, hey, if a payment goes through before we turned off the automatic payments, you can call and you can get that payment refunded.
So I'll back up. You don't have to apply for this student loan stop payment. It's automatic, just kind of like the stimulus check with the CARES Act.
100%.
But if you've made a payment between, the 27th, right? The 27th of March when
it actually backdates to March 13th when the emergency declaration was signed.
So you made a payment within the last, 3 weeks from this time we're filming this here. Then you have to call then to get that sent back to you, correct? That's not going to be automatic.
You will. And you don't have to call. I mean, if you're fine and you want to make that payment towards your loans, that's cool. But if you're hard for cash right now and you need that money, you have to call your loan servicer to get a refund. But as of April 10th, all the stuff is going to stop automatically. That's the deadline. They've confirmed that they will turn off all the automatic payments. Everything should be 100% turned off by April 10th.
Okay, so the key thing here, though, is we're talking about federally backed student loans, correct?
100% federally backed student loans. They need to say direct. That is the key word you're looking for. So if you're looking at your loan statement, it needs to be direct student loans. That word direct means it's directly owned by the government.
Okay, so that there it is. If I just know if it says the word direct, I know that I have a federally backed student loan. Is there any other way to find out, or is that kind of the basic way?
That's the easiest way. So there's about 5% of loans out there that aren't direct, that are old loans that are owned by the federal government. And this number is very small. The only way to tell is either to call your loan servicer or to log into your student loan portal, and your loans will have a 0% interest rate. And that's it. And those are for old FFEL loans. And let me tell you how you qualify, just so you know the details. But I can tell you that 98 to 99% of you watching and listening, this doesn't apply to. But if you want to be sure, here's how you can tell. If you had an old FFEL loan from before 2008, so you already had to have an old loan, and that loan was bought by the Department of Education during the Great Recession when all the banks were failing, your loan may be owned by the Department of Education. And it's a very small number of loans. We're talking thousands, not even millions, compared to everything else. So there's a small percentage of people that this may apply to, but they're very, very, very rare. And
what
you
about
can find
a Perkins loan?
Perkins loans are held by individual banks because they're loaned by the school. So a very, very small percent of them. They include Perkins loans. They include FFEL loans. Perkins loans, we're talking about hundreds. We're not even talking about thousands. FFEL loans, we're talking about thousands. But it's just a very smooth, because you have to remember too that this was over 12 years ago. So even when these loans were bought, a lot of people have paid them off, consolidated, refinanced over the last 12 years since these loans were acquired by the Department of Education. So it's a very small percent of people. But for most people, look for direct. Direct is your key to no payments, no interest.
So for those of you joining in right now, I got Robert Farrington on. He's from the College Investor, talking everything student loans. If you guys have a question, and we're here live right now streaming this, go ahead and post your question in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, and we can answer your questions now, because that's what we want to do. We want to be able to give as much help now while you're here. And I have some other questions here. So Robert, what if you're you're already on some kind of loan forgiveness program? You're on a 10-year income-driven plan or something like that. Are you getting help if you're in that situation as well?
Yeah, so that's the scary thing. So public service loan forgiveness is like the gold standard for loan forgiveness, right? You just kind of mentioned it, 10 years / 120 payments, and you get your loans forgiven tax-free if you meet the requirements. Well, a lot of people are like, oh my God, they're pausing payments for 6 months. Are those 6 months not going to count for me? And the cool thing is they will count for you. So this 6-month pause until September 30th, if you already have the employment certification and the right loan type, they will count your payments during this time, even though you're not making payments. So this is literally when I say we're pushing the pause button, it's like we're pushing the pause button, but there's no negatives to it. It is the best thing that could possibly happen for borrowers right now.
I'm looking at this and I'm looking at pushing pause, comparing it to mortgage forbearance. And I really feel like the student loan, I don't know if to say forbearance is the right word, but the student loan period is much more beneficial for the borrower than the mortgage information.
100%, because there's no interest. There's no, there's no payments, no interest, and these still count for forgiveness if you're meeting the other criteria. So if you're a teacher right now and you're worried that oh my gosh, my payments are going to pause, but those 6 months will still count towards your 120 total. So that's awesome. And that's helpful.
All right. We have a question that's going to come in here. I'm going to bring it up real quick. It's from VB. Says, what do you mean by the pause button? Is this like a true forbearance?
It's not like a true forbearance in the sense that right now, as of March 13th, all student loan payments for federally held loans are 100% ceased. They're not going to take payments. If you want to make a payment, you have to do it manually. All automatic debits are turned off, but you are not required to make any student loan payments until after September 30th. With that being said, there's no interest growing on your loans, and this 6-month period of time counts for public service loan forgiveness. So when I say it's like a pause button, I mean literally they just hit pause, and after September 30th, they're going to push play again, and we're going to go back closer to normal, maybe, if everything improves.
Okay, so hold that thought too, because I'm going to ask some questions in regards to what you just said. I have another one that came in here, Robert. It says, Laura says, I'm still in school, so I have no payments, but I do owe 13 grand. Will they forgive any of this debt? I'm graduating this August.
So there is no loan forgiveness that's being given as part of any of these stimulus packages or bills. There was like talk about it and things, but honestly, this idea of blanket student loan forgiveness that's been proposed by most of the presidential candidates isn't going to go anywhere. So don't count on just like seeing your loans wiped out or any type of your balance going away. But your loans are paused. You owe $13,000, you're going to owe $13,000 still on September 30th. So you have 6 months to game plan. If you're going back to school, your loans will stay in deferment, but you have 6 months to game plan on what you want to do with that debt with no penalty.
No penalty. What about, I had somebody ask me earlier, what about credit? Will my credit be affected whatsoever with this period?
Nope, it's not going to be impacted at all. They're not even going to report this to the credit bureaus. It's literally like this 6 month is going to disappear for a lot of people. It's the best thing that can possibly happen for student loan borrowers.
We all know the saying, if it's too good to be true, sometimes it sounds too good to be true. It is, but this almost sounds like it's too good to be true. You're getting basically a free 6 months of freedom from these student loans with nothing tacked on afterwards.
I mean, but we are dealing with the worst financial crisis that the country's probably seen in 100 years. So, it is too good to be true in some senses of your debt. But on the flip side, I think we're going to see a lot of people struggling. And so use this time to get your financial house in order as fast as you can, because it's not going to get better faster. Anyone that tells you that this is going to be a 6 month blip on the radar has not literally read history, has not studied what's going to happen. This is going to be a multi-year struggle for a lot of people.
What about, so now we talked all about federal student loans, direct student loans. What if you're sitting there thinking, well, I have a private student loan. Am I just screwed here? I mean, what happens to me?
Yeah, that's tough. So private student loans, they operate by their own set of rules, and the rules are set by your lender, the bank, right? And so in this environment, some banks have come out with forbearance options and things like that, but you have to call. It's all at their discretion. And what really grinds my gears with a lot of these private lenders is that a lot of them aren't telling you outright what they're doing. They're like, well, you can call us and we do offer programs, but we're not going to tell you what those programs are. And I just hate that, but that's what they're doing. So if you have a private student loan, you have to call your lender and you have to ask for it and make sure you're saying it's because I was laid off because of the coronavirus, or I'm struggling financially because of the coronavirus. If you're not using coronavirus or COVID-19 as your reason, a lot of them also won't do anything. It's like the code word you need to get in, which is kind of silly.
I'm on your site right now, Robert. I'm going to share your screen here in a minute, but I'm on your site here and it looks like you've done a really good job of going through and just kind of explaining some of the private student loan companies out there that are trying to do the right thing. Yep. Can you kind of, as I scroll through here, kind of just, maybe we'll talk about a few of these here. We have Citizens Bank, Earnest, what out of all these private student loan companies, and we're going to put links to this resource for you guys as well. After the show, they'll be in the show notes. And I'm sure Robert's going to be updating this as these private banks update. Yep. What they're doing
here, but I was gonna say a common theme is anywhere from 3 to 12 months of forbearance, but these forbearances aren't like the government one. These ones are usually like you don't have to make a payment, but your interest will still grow on the loans. They're just basically giving you the option to not pay your bill from a period of 3 to 12 months is usually what we're seeing. And so it's tough. There's nothing great about it, but at least you don't have to make your payments. That's the key. Because for a lot of us today, it's like I have a choice between feeding my family and paying my student loans. Well, feed your family, call your loan servicer, don't make those payments. They'll put you into a forbearance.
Gotcha. Let's see. What are some other questions that I think we had? Anybody else have any questions in regards to we have Robert on right now?
I see one that says, so we do nothing for now. And yeah, if you have a federal loan, you don't have to do anything right now. It will automatically go into place. The automatic debits will be turned off on April 10th if it hasn't been already, but that's like the final deadline. You don't have to call your loan servicer. The only reason you need to call your loan servicer is if you had a payment go through, like say yesterday on April 1st, and you need that cash, you can call and ask for a refund of any payment you've made before they turned off the auto debit. But after April 10th, it's all going to be shut off. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to call your loan servicer. You don't have to fill out any forms. It's 100% automatic.
So the bottom line is, think of this student loan kind of like with the CARES Act and your stimulus check. You don't have to apply for it. It's coming to you whether you like it or not. Same thing here. However, if you do want to get the money that you sent off in the last couple of weeks back, That's not going to be automatic. You have to make that call. And if you have a private student loan, Robert said you also have to make that call to your bank as well. And again, I'm going to be putting resources that Robert has on his site. We'll be linking them to our site below this video. We'll be doing that as well, and in the show notes. So that's always up to date. I will say, and I'm not trying to toot Robert's horn here for him, but out of everybody that I know, this guy keeps things up to date more than anybody I know. I mean, it's incredible. I'm like, how does this happen? So anything that you see on his site is the most current, probably before you're going to see on like Forbes or MSNBC or anything like that. It'll be on the College Investor. I have another great question here. I will have loans for my daughter that will be due in November. Will interest still accumulate on those loans?
No. So this period of 6 months until September 30th is interest free. So your loans are not going to grow during this time. Now, after September 30th, so you're going to have a little bit of, for November, you're going to have October and November unless they extend this. But for this 6 month period of time, it is an interest free. Like, that's why I'm calling it a pause versus a forbearance. It's literally like they're just stopping everything. No payments due and no interest will grow on these loans. Okay.
So now that we have all that explained, my question is, what happens on September 30th? I mean, what if we get to this point and I'm not employed, I don't have an income? I mean, what are my options? Because I don't want to just think short term. I know we're in a short term or in a crisis right now, and so we're planning as quickly as we can. But thinking long term, what do I do?
Yep. So the first thing you need to do is you need to handle this payment. And there's two ways I advocate this. The first one, which I consider the better approach, is that you ask for an income-driven repayment plan. Many of you might be on this already, in which case you just stay with it. But you need to certify your income with your current income as of September timeframe. And if that's zero, your legal monthly payment every month will be zero.
Okay, right? Repeat that real quick, because that kind of shocks me a little bit.
Right.
So say that again.
Your income-driven repayment plan, it bases your monthly payment on your income. And if your income is zero, your legal monthly payment is also zero. And why I like this better than a deferment is because income-driven repayment includes loan forgiveness at the end of the road, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you defer your loans, you're kicking the can down the road and you're making no progress towards loan forgiveness. If you stay on an income-driven repayment plan, even with a $0 a month payment, you are making little checks on your path towards loan forgiveness down the road. Now, many of us won't ever get there. We'll probably pay off the loans first, whatever. But at least in the short term, you're making the best effort you possibly can.
So even at a $0 payment, that still counts as one of your 120 payments.
Well, no, income-driven repayment plans have a 240 payment before they get to loan forgiveness, 20 years.
That's right.
But you're
thinking of PSLF. Okay.
You're thinking of PSLF, but you're making progress towards it. And that's the thing is like, if you never recover from this, at least you didn't waste a year or two kicking the can with a deferment when, you could have been making progress towards loan forgiveness. And that's why it's exactly the same to you. You're not paying anything every month, but with being on an income-driven repayment plan, you're making progress towards loan forgiveness. The other option is to file for an unemployment deferment. And this is where you kick the can down the road. You can apply for unemployment deferment for up to 3 years. You have to recertify every 6 months that you're actively looking for work, but this will pause your loans for that unemployment deferment period of time, up to 3 years. But you're not making any progress towards loan forgiveness. So when we're comparing, two things that are equal in terms of a zero monthly payment, income-driven repayment is usually better than an unemployment deferment.
Okay. So, and I understand what you're doing here. You're just giving options. We want to have as many options as possible, but definitely option number one is use your income at September 30th, whatever your income is going to be at September 30th, to either reapply or apply for income-driven repayment plans.
That's the best thing that you can do because, we also don't know how this summer is going to unfold and your income could be zero. It could just be lower, that you might be having to put together some odd jobs and things, but apply with your current income. And you might either get a low payment or if you have no income, a $0 a month payment.
All right, Robert, I got another great question here. Cassie says, federal loans here and they garnish my taxes. Federal and state every year. Where does that money go? My federal loans never change. My balance is always at $16,000.
Oh, yes. Garnishments and tax offsets are the worst because they don't even go to your loans. It's just you're literally throwing your whole tax refund into the collection company's pocket. So your money literally goes to interest and collection costs. It never goes to your loan. Actually, a little bit might go to your loan. I won't say never because it depends on how much you get. But, it's like 30% go to fees, 60% goes to collection costs, and a little bit goes to your loan. And then the thing is that you're not making any payments the whole year until next tax season. So your loan has gone back up, and then the process repeats itself. So with that being said, there's two things you need to know right now. Number one is collection activity has ceased until September 30th. Okay. They're not going to garnish your wages anymore until after September 30th. And if you haven't filed your tax return yet, they're not going to take your tax refund right now. Okay. And they're not going to take your stimulus check when that comes. So you have some wins right there. Okay. Part two is, if you heard us at the beginning of this, video, there's no payments and no interest until September 30th. So there has never been a better time in the history of student loans to get out of default. You can literally get out of default right now and have no payments due, and you'll stop all this collection activity once the programs go back into normal mode after September 30th. So right now, get out of default. Literally call your lender after this podcast, after this video, and literally say, I need to get out of default. I want to get out of default right now. And you're not going to owe any payments this whole summer. And so it gives you a buffer. And next year, when you get to tax season, you'll get your tax refund again. And if you get on an income-driven repayment plan, you could have a $0 a month payment. So you're not only out of default, you're in a good place. You're not going to owe anything more, and they're not going to keep taking your money from you and throwing your money into the trash can.
So I'm so glad you said that, because right now, if you turn on the television or go to any kind of news site, it's doom and gloom, doom and gloom, doom and gloom. And it really is out there. I mean, we're in unprecedented times, but there is some silver lining. And like Robert just said, think about this. When in the last couple of years, if you're in default, has there been a better time for you where you can push pause on payments? You're going to get a check for $1,200 to $2,400, maybe $500 extra per child. Mm-hmm. You're not going to accrue any interest. Is going to be no penalties, and you can get out of default and not have to go through garnishment and tax offsets or anything like that. So this is all a cause from the coronavirus. So I think this is now, like, you have some opportunity, along with, there's obviously things going on that we're all struggling with, but there's a huge opportunity here to really move yourself forward, it sounds like.
Yeah, especially for the borrowers in default. Like that comment right there. I mean, she's been in this cycle every year of getting her tax refunds garnished. Her wages might have been garnished, and no progress was made on the loans because those garnishments all go to collection costs. Well, this is the time, especially for borrowers in default. There's never been an easier, better time to get out of default, because you're going into a period of zero payments, zero interest, and you can stop all that crazy wasting of money that goes to collection costs that was just like literally keeping you in this hamster wheel of debt.
I have another, this is kind of a longer question here, but I think you're going to be the person that would answer this best. So as Trisha says, I was with Navient in 2008, and I asked to change my loans to direct loans and asked for any programs for me since I'm a teacher's aide, and they said there wasn't anything for me to do 8 years later to make payments to my loans during this time. Now that I'm a student loan program, I have to wait till 2028 until my loans are done instead of 2018 when I was 10 years of service with the school. Do I have any rights to fight?
Maybe, but probably not. So end of the day, I want everyone that's listening to realize this, that your loan servicer is not your financial advisor. Your loan servicer is a call center, and that call center rep makes $8 to $10 an hour and doesn't know you, doesn't know your financial situation, and frankly is just trying to get through their shift. And they're not there to guide you through these. So it sucks that they gave you, really kind of crappy information, but I don't know when you called in 2008. If you called in January of 2008, there was no options for you. If you called in December of 2008, there might have been options for you. But even then, the options might not have been better than what you were currently paying, because the only repayment plan available was really bad at that time. So it's hard. You're in a really rough situation. Do you have some options to fight? Yes, you can try to contest it. You can ask if Navient has any recordings from that period of time, but chances are you really don't. And it sucks. I hate to see people in that situation, but it's just a good reminder that the only person that cares about your money is you. And you can Google this, you can find this out, you can read it, you can take all the action yourself, and you can deal with everything with your student loans by going to studentaid.gov, the Department of Education's website. You never have to talk to your loan servicer. And I recommend that, frankly, most people should never talk to their loan servicer. It's better to read it, have everything in writing, and never have everything on a phone call. So for Trisha, it sucks. You might have some recourse, but there's so many variables in that situation. They might have given you the best information you had. They might have been trying to help you out by not getting you into a really bad repayment plan that did qualify. You could have seen your monthly payment double, and yeah, you would have qualified for loan forgiveness, but could you have afforded the double in monthly payment? So there's so much there, which is hard. And I'm sad that you waited, so long before you were able to reconsolidate and get into a better spot. But yeah, that's where that stands. But remember, your loan servicer is a call center. The call center is staffed by hourly employees that are not your financial advisor. I don't necessarily think that Joe and Jane working in the call center are trying to screw you. I just think they're call center reps. They don't know you. You're telling them something. They're trying to do the best they can, but they don't know your financial situation. They just see what they see and they hear what you're telling them, and they're trying to just get to their next phone call and end their shift.
Robert, I appreciate you coming on and just explaining all of this. This is helpful for me. I feel like, I've done as much as I can to read up on it, but it's just good to be able to answer questions and get this out in the open. So for those listening right now, you always remember what you hear at the very end of something. So we're just going to wrap up this interview. What would you recommend to people, like the take action thing that they could be doing right now?
The number one thing that you can do right now is simply get organized with your student loans, but with your total financial situation. Whether you're in good financial place right now or a bad one, or you're uncertain about your future, it's very hard to make decisions if you don't know how much you have in your student loan debt, what your options are, where your loans are, who your loan servicer is, what's coming in, what's going out. And so many people have more than one loan too. So you might have 3 loans that qualify and maybe a private loan that has a different option. But if you don't have it all laid out, it's really hard to make a decision about what to do next. And that decision's different for everybody. And so while your federal loans are paused, you literally have a break. You have 6 months to figure it out. And I know there might be more pressing issues like finding work or taking care of your family and everything, but you have time. And you can sort this out, figure out what the best path forward is, because at some point in time, right now it's September 30th, but it could be later. They might change it, but at some point in time, everything's going to turn back on again. Mm-hmm. And you need to have an action plan ready for that point in time, whether that is changing your repayment plan or, seeing what you can do on a deferment or knowing what your forgiveness options are, things like that. You need to have a plan ready to go for whenever that on button hits again.
I 100% agree. Create a plan, find out where the money's going, whether it's coming in, going out, where it's going to. And like you said, many people have multiple student loans. Find out the balances, find out what your options are. Make that call if you need to get your payment back that you made. Make that call. If you have a private loan, call your bank. Take action. Do something. Don't just sit here and listen to this and do nothing. Take action. And if you know somebody out there who has a student loan that maybe could use this information to help them move forward, please, I would ask you, send this to them, send them a link to this. If you're listening to the podcast, share this with them. This is how we're going to get the word out. And I want to thank you, Robert, because look, I understand you're a busy guy. You got a pretty large site that you're running and you're updating it by the hour with everything coronavirus. So I appreciate you taking the time. And for those of you watching, you can see that Robert is actually in his garage doing this right now because
we're all working from random areas, man.
Yeah.
I'm working from home and the kids are inside doing online schooling. And so you got to do what you got to do right now. It's crazy for everybody, right?
You're in San Diego, so everyone across the country is being affected by this. And so when we hit play on this, when I said, Robert, you're in your garage, and he goes, yeah, my office, I can't go there. And I'm like, that makes sense. So, but this is how we are doing life right now. We're going to get through it. And Robert, I just want to say thank you. And again, go to thecollegeinvestor.com. That's thecollegeinvestor.com. If you can't remember that, don't worry. The links will be put in the show notes. The links will be put on all our social channels there. And definitely, we probably only got through about 50% of what Robert has when it comes to student loans, student loan helps, and everything that you need to know. So if you didn't have time to write anything down, please head on over to the site, check it out. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. And also, if you have any questions, I know that there's comment sections in all of Robert's posts that you can ask there. And you can see people are, I mean, you're getting answers quickly. So thank you again, Robert, for coming on. Appreciate you. And God bless, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me. And thanks, guys.